Hello trainers, Professor Palm here, and welcome back to the spooky season. Last week, I read the creepypasta Pokémon Lost Silver. I happen to really like the horror genre, but if I am to be honest, I think that my favorite genre of all time is science fiction. I love the stories, the TV shows, movies, everything that has to do with sci-fi. I don't know, I just always found sci-fi a really creative genre. Maybe it's because I like the adventures that have to do with a sci-fi adventure. Maybe sometimes I like the characters that are created, and I like how sci-fi has so many creative liberties to work with. But I also like the sci-fi genre because in our world of Pokemon, there are times where our world does feel like some of the things that inspired sci-fi happened in real life. After all, it's no secret that on our planet, we have Pokemon that came from beyond the stars. I think it's really cool to think that there are Pokemon, not on our planet, but on so many out there. With there being so many sci-fi stories of aliens coming to our world to conquer and destroy it, it's great to know that on our planet, the alien Pokemon here come in peace. But I'd also say that it kind of does make you wonder, where in the galaxy did they come from? There are so many planets out there that it's kind of hard to track which one every alien Pokemon is from. Which also kind of would make a really cool typing if we had the space typing. I know that's a typing that has been thought of for a very long time, but considering that there are a lot of alien Pokemon, I think a space typing would work perfectly. However, if you really think about it, there are Pokemon from so many other planets. It's possible that there's a typing from a planet that doesn't exist on our world. While many alien Pokemon come from space, I like that in Pokemon Sun and Moon, as well as their Ultra games, we got to meet Pokemon that came from different worlds through the Ultra wormhole. I gotta be honest, Ultra Beasts are amazing. While the worlds they live in are sure dangerous, it is something much different than the world that we're used to. And I kinda like that. I would love to jump on Solgaleo or Lunala and fly through space to go to a much different world. Sure, everything there might be quite strange, but that's what I think makes it really fun, when things are not what they seem. And it also would be an experience out of this world. As a lover of space sci-fi, I have to say, we've come a very long way when it comes to alien designs, as we have some really unique ones from where we started. Honestly, looking back to little green or gray men with big heads and big bulging eyes saying, "Take me cheerleader," was creative at the time, but it's become kind of different. But what's funny enough is we actually do have some Pokemon that are similar of the very first designs of aliens ever. I'm of course talking about the two aliens in Unova found in a crash over 50 years ago. Of course, we're talking about the brilliant little one, Elgyem, and the big-brained Beheeyem. These are Pokemon that are some of the smartest in the galaxy. Sometimes aliens come to planets to look for intelligent life. While we have IQ that can reach triple digits, these Pokemon have IQ that can reach quadruple digits. With their powerful minds, not only are Elgyem and Beheeyem some of the smartest Pokemon on the planet as well as the galaxy, but they also have the power to not only communicate with themselves just with their minds, but also with a special code within their fingers. If you look carefully at these Pokemon, they have a red, yellow, and green light in their hands that they usually use to talk to one another. But what makes it more interesting is that no one has ever been able to break the code that Elgyem and Beheeyem used with one another. But it's also possible they're not just talking with each other or others on the planet, but it's possible they're talking to them from beyond the galaxy. Elgyem and Beheeyem understand the brain better than anyone with those massive heads of theirs. But absorbing all that knowledge and using that psychic power sure can give these Pokemon with big heads massive headaches. Speaking of which, I'm feeling a pretty massive headache. Oh no, they're taking control of my mind. No! 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 Hello, Earthlings. We are Elgyem and Beheeyem. We have come to your planet to understand your knowledge, history, and everything about you. We actually find you rather interesting creatures. Unlike us, you appear to have an ability to make mistakes or fail at things. Unlike us, we live by a code of failure is not an option, nor is making mistakes. Yet, despite those mistakes you make, you all appear very intelligent for what you are doing. It does intrigue us, and we find your history rather interesting, how you fight with one another instead of living in a life of peace. We wonder, is this life you live a normal one, or is there something different to it that you want us to be a part of? What happened? Oh, Elgyem Beheeyem. Where did these two come from? I love sci-fi. These are some of my favorite sci-fi Pokemon. I think maybe we should talk about them. I think instead, for the spooky side, let's take things to the sci-fi level. For the spooky season, we're gonna take the sci-fi route, as there's plenty of scary stories about creatures that come from other planets. And Elgyem and Beheeyem are no exception. With their strong psychic powers, these Pokemon sure have one of the coolest things out there. And with their massive heads, I think it's time that we learn the knowledge that they do. So, I'd say that it's time to go into space. We're gonna go to infinity and beyond as we talk about the little brainiac itself, Elgyem! Elgyem, the cerebral Pokemon, is based on Greys, one of the more popular kinds of aliens that are oftentimes known as little green men. Elgyem's rocky physical appearance may be a reference to the stone circles of Europe, which were allegedly created by visiting extraterrestrials. However, Elgyem also draws inspiration to Japanese Dao, statues which depict deities from mythology, which have often been confused as alien artifacts. If you want to find this cute little space Pokemon, some Elgyem can be found living within the deserts where they first appeared. However, since Elgyem love to learn about humans and Pokemon, they enjoy urban areas like cities and towns, and they often come out a lot during the night, where they love staring up at the stars in the sky. Elgyem is a Pokemon shrouded in mystery, as no one had ever seen an Elgyem until one day it randomly appeared about 50 years ago in the desert at night. It was found nearby a crater that developed the theory it came from space, and this theory was strengthened when it often does appear nearby meteor crash sites. Despite being an alien, Elgyem comes in peace. It has a welcoming and informative behavior. It's always willing to help others in stressful as well as difficult situations. This Pokemon not only can heal others that are hurt, but it also has the power to relieve stress. While it may be small, Elgyem's huge head houses one of the most brilliant brains ever. Not just is this Pokemon a genius, but it can think faster than anyone. These Pokemon are born so intelligent that a newborn can solve calculus problems just an hour after birth. Other than its huge head, one of the most standout features on Elgyem is its red, yellow, and green light fingers. While Elgyem can talk, it prefers to communicate by flashing the lights on their hands. However, no one has ever been able to decipher what it's saying when it flashes these three lights. When talking to Beheeyem, both of them use their light fingers to communicate with one another, and sometimes they just stand and stare at each other. It's rumored that both of these Pokemon are passing on the knowledge that they've learned to each other, but they're doing it through a mental tunnel, as well as giving themselves a message between their lights. While Elgyem are quite peaceful, they can be very scary when they're afraid. Because of its big brain, whenever it's threatened, Elgyem uses its strong psychic powers to squeeze its opponent's brain, which will cause awful headaches. It can also read their opponent's minds and figure out what makes them so scared of things. So Elgyem will comb through their mind and flash frightening images before their eyes. Because of its huge head and massive brain it has, there is no Pokemon that knows the brain better than Elgyem. When it needs to, Elgyem can comb through anyone's brain and help them relive memories if they need it. But it can also erase memories. If you cannot remember the events of a previous day, it's possible you had an encounter with Elgyem. Keep Elgyem away from your electronics, as its psychic powers will do creepy things. It's said that if Elgyem stands near a TV or phone, strange scenery will appear on the screen. That scenery is rumored to be the planet that it calls its home. What a brilliant brainiac Elgyem is, not just on our planet, but throughout the entire galaxy. You know what they say, knowledge is power. As this Pokemon gets smarter, its power goes to infinity and beyond. And with age comes wisdom. So, let's take things to the next level. Let's evolve Elgyem into Beheeyem. With this massive mind of Beheeyem, it's time to brainstorm as we feel the brilliance of brain power. Beheeyem, the cerebral Pokemon, is based on Greys, one of the more popular kinds of aliens, known as little green men. Beheeyem's appearance also resembles a person wearing a hat and trench coat, often based off the stereotypical spies, shady figures, or men in black. Also, the saucer-shaped underside of its head may be a reference to the common shape of UFOs. Its rocky-like physical appearance is based off the stone circles of Europe, which were allegedly created by visiting extraterrestrials. However, it also draws inspiration to Japanese Dao statues, which depict deities of mythology, oftentimes being mistaken for alien artifacts. If you wish to see this alien Pokemon in action, Beheeyem can be found living within urban areas, like cities and towns. Since this Pokemon loves to learn, you can often find them in museums as well as at historical sites. During the night is when Beheeyem are the most active, and they often are on the rooftops looking at the stars, which remind them of their home planet. Just like with its previous evolution, Elgyem, Beheeyem has 3 red, yellow, and blue lights on its hand, which glow different colors as a form of communication. During the night, when Beheeyem's lights flash, some believe that Beheeyem is conversing in code, not just to other Elgyem and Beheeyem on Earth, but all across the galaxy. Since Beheeyem understands the brain better than anything, Beheeyem can help you dig up old memories by combing through the brain in just a matter of seconds. It can find exactly what you want and even project the image on top of its head with its psychic powers so you can flash back to it. Beheeyem are rather friendly, and they always enjoy making new friends. However, these Pokemon are also quite careful of those they meet. One of its most distinctive features are its glowing green eyes, which not only can see in the dark, but they can also sense the nature of both people and Pokemon around it. Just making eye contact with Beheeyem, it will immediately know what it's dealing with as well as the nature it has. Not only are Beheeyem smart Pokemon, but they have IQs that reach into the thousands digits. These Pokemon can read textbooks from cover to cover in only a matter of minutes. Some believe that if Beheeyem could speak our language, this Pokemon would have answers to questions that we don't even know to ask yet. In the wild, Beheeyem prefer to stay private, as they don't like others invading of what they do. By using its psychic powers in their fingers, Beheeyem can tamper with memories of both humans and Pokemon. If you can't remember what happened the previous day, it's possible that you had an encounter with Beheeyem that erased your memory. While Beheeyem is a rather peaceful Pokemon, when it feels threatened, this Pokemon becomes a nightmare. Beheeyem will use its mind power to take control of the foe to make them hurt themselves. But if that doesn't do it, Beheeyem will also give its foe a terrible headache by squeezing its brain. And these headaches it causes can last for several days. Sometimes Beheeyem will take control of another Pokemon's mind and use it to fight its own battles like a mindless puppet. It'll also use other Pokemon to do its bidding, sometimes gathering food to eat if it sees an area that's too dangerous for it to enter all alone. While Elgyem and Beheeyem are alien Pokemon, it's a good thing to know that these aliens come in peace. I think it's really cool that Elgyem and Beheeyem came from beyond the stars to our planet. It's been 50 years since they crashed here in a spaceship and have brought so much knowledge to us as they've made Earth their home. With those brilliant big heads they have, they sure could teach us a few new things. So here are some fun facts and tidbits about our psychic space invaders, Elgyem and Beheeyem. Unlike most other Pokemon, whenever they're put to sleep or go to sleep, Elgyem's eyes do not close whenever it's under the sleeping status, due to this Pokemon having no eyelids. Beheeyem evolves from Elgyem at level 42, which is a reference to the novel series The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, from the famous quote, "The answer to the ultimate question of life, the universe, and everything is the number 42. Despite both Elgyem and Beheeyem both being pure Psychic-type Pokemon, as of Gen 6, Both Beheeyem and Elgyem can learn the move Steel Wing through TM, even though neither of them have a pair of wings. Though, on a funny note, while they can still learn the move through TM after Gen 6, back in the 6th generation, the TM move Steel Wing was actually TM51, which may be a nod to Area 51. Elgyem's Pokemon White Pokedex entry states that it was discovered 50 years ago in the desert. This Pokedex entry stays the same if you register Elgyem to your Pokedex in Black and White too, despite it actually being 52 years, due to the games taking place 2 years after the first ones. Beheeyem is sadly the only final stage pure Psychic type Pokemon introduced in Gen 5 not to be used by Elite Four Psychic type expert Caitlyn in her initial battle. Every Pokemon has a special quirk and thing that they can do in or out of battle that we call an ability. If you happen to catch yourself an Elgyem or a Beheeyem, they can have one of two abilities. The first ability being Telepathy, which helps our big brain alien Pokemon anticipate an ally's attack and dodge it when in a double battle. For the other ability of our smart Psychic type space friends, they can have Synchronize. So, if our Brainy bunch gets burned, paralyzed, or poisoned by their enemy, that Pokemon will be inflicted with the very same status condition. And if you want to take things to a higher level, give Elgyem and Beheeyem the ability patch and you'll unlock their hidden ability, Analytic, which boosts the power of the moves if either of our Space Invaders happen to be the last one to use a move that turn. In the Pokemon trading card game, there are several cards of Elgyem that have it living in the desert. As several Pokedex entries mentioned, it was first discovered there. Yet despite both the Pokedex entries and the card art of having Elgyem in the desert, there has never been a game in the series where wild Elgyem can be encountered in the desert. And according to Beheeyem's Sword and Shield Pokedex entries in the Galar games, it has connections with the disappearance of Dubwool and lingering over wheat fields floating high and ominously, which are likely references to common sci-fi stories of aliens abducting livestock and burning crop circles into the farmland fields. Being the alien Pokemon they both are, Elgyem and Beheeyem sure have minds out of this world, as they don't like to fight, but rather prefer to learn and fill their big heads with knowledge. However, being Pokemon, almost all of them have a weakness when they go into battle. And with Beheeyem and Elgyem being pure Psychic type Pokemon, both our smart Psychic space Pokemon's heads will experience a brain ache when both Elgyem and Beheeyem are hit by super effective moves that are Bug type, Dark type, and Ghost type. That's 3 weaknesses for both Elgyem and Beheeyem. Man, being weak to those 3 types that are also common fears will make anyone's brain hurt. However, this brainstorming bunch will easily get up and figure out their enemies' weaknesses, which will make them cower in fear. With their big brains, both Beheeyem and Elgyem will fight, using their pure Psychic typing, and use their minds in battle, as they get great special stab with their Psychic type moves, being super effective against their enemies that are Poison type and Fighting type. Only 2 strengths for both of our aliens, Elgyem and Beheeyem. They may have less strengths than they do have weaknesses, but Elgyem and Beheeyem are more the ones who seek knowledge as power, instead of victory to show their power, as they rarely pick fights. For both Elgyem and Beheeyem, it's mind over muscle. I always found it so amazing that Elgyem and Beheeyem are alien Pokemon. While they may not be the first ones ever, it's really cool to think that they both came from another world. And it does make you wonder, how many other Pokemon are living beyond the stars? Sometimes I wonder what planet Elgyem and Beheeyem came from. I also wonder what other Pokemon live on that planet. Maybe there's more Pokemon on our planet that we didn't know came from space. Despite being aliens, I'm glad that they're not invaders and they didn't come to take over the world. I like to think that they came here to seek knowledge and learn about our planet. Also, I think it's pretty safe to say that both Elgyem and Beheeyem are aliens who come in peace. While we have a lot of brilliant Pokemon in our world, I think Beheeyem and Elgyem take their brilliance to a higher level. While they speak using their words and their minds, they also speak using the 3 red, green, and yellow finger-like digits, which allow them to speak towards one another in a code language. I guess Beheeyem and Elgyem really like keeping their secrets to themselves, as no one has ever been able to crack this code with the patterns of their lights. Sometimes I wonder, is it possible when they use their light code, are they not only talking with each other miles away, but also planets away, let alone galaxies away? Whoa. If that's the case, I guess you could say that Beheeyem and Elgyem invented the term galaxy-brained, as these Pokemon have minds out of this world. For Elgyem and Beheeyem, it's mind over muscle, and while they may be peaceful alien Pokemon, they sure know how to make one suffer in endless ways, as their minds can really think a lot of things when they're threatened. They can turn their foe into their mindless puppet, they can erase their minds, and even make the target hurt themselves. Psychic Pokemon have always been some of the smartest ones out there, and Elgyem and Beheeyem are no exception. As with those massive heads and how fast these Pokemon think, I believe that Elgyem and Beheeyem have more brain power in one brain cell than we have in our entire brain. With both Beheeyem and Elgyem's big heads, it's pretty easy to see how powerful and dangerous the mind is, especially how both of our psychic space Pokemon use it. Even the mind of a human is powerful and scary. For the one who thinks and creates the light bulb, there's the one who thinks and creates the atom bomb. While they may be cool, it's also kind of scary to think what other Pokemon could be coming from the stars following our psychic space friends. However, maybe it's possible that with both of their cerebral powers, maybe they've protected us, making it unable for other Pokemon to come and invade us. With their amazing intelligence and their powerful minds and IQ off the charts, Beheeyem and Elgyem shouldn't be called aliens. Instead, I think we should call them the Brainy Bunch. Welcome back, Earthlings. Due to us being Pokemon, you cannot understand what we are saying. So, we took control of the professor so you can understand what we are saying. Because we happen to find you an interesting species. On most worlds, humans do not exist. So, seeing humans and Pokemon work together and live in harmony is something that very much intrigues us. We will be happy to learn even more about you and are happy we have come to this planet. Though, we believe you would like the professor back. Here you go. Great. Elgyem and Beheeyem took over my mind again, didn't they? I hope I didn't weird you out or say anything weird to all of you. All in all, I had a lot of fun talking about the sci-fi side of the spooky season. Not everything always has to be out of horror. Sometimes things can be scary when they're out of this world with the X unknown factor. And it was really cool to talk about some alien Pokemon. If you liked what you saw, please leave a like. If you have any questions, want to answer any of the ones I threw at you, you have an idea that you want turned into a video, or you want me to talk about something in the current events of Pokemon, please comment. And as always, if you like what you see and want to see more, smash the subscribe button. As a Pokemon professor, it's my job to teach trainers like all of you, so please share my videos with as many trainers as you can. The spooky season is still only in its early stages. Hope you're ready to see what other stuff happens. Thanks for watching, trainers. Until then, Palm out.